Okay, today is June 14, 2011. We're doing the second half of Chapter 6 test. We're on question number 3. The question says, describe the graph of a quadratic function that has no real roots, no x-intercepts. Include a rough sketch. So, rough sketch of this is we draw our xy axis, and what it is a parabola that is above the x-axis facing upwards, or a parabola that is below the x-axis facing downwards. And what I mean by below or above is the vertex of that parabola is either below or above. The parabola itself never crosses the x-axis. So you would just have to describe that in words. Question 4.
That was all the question 3 was? Wow, did you put a test on something?
So, should be up. Let me see question 4. Okay, question 4 says, sketch the graph of the following quadratic function by factoring the x-intercepts, then deducing the coordinates of the vertex. So, this is the equation, y is equal to negative 4x minus 5. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to try to factor this. So we take the factors of the first term and the last term. We know that their products need to add up to b, which is negative 4. Okay, and if 5 is negative, yeah, it has to be divided by 1. It'll work. So we put our brackets around. Our first terms are x and x, because that's the middle term. And our second terms are positive 1 and negative 5. Now, remember, this says y is equal to this. Y is equal to this factored form. Yep, just put it right there. Now, they're asking us to find the x-intercepts. X-intercepts are when what variable is equal to 0? Y. When y is equal to 0, those are our x-intercepts. So we're going to substitute 0 in for y. So we have 0 equals the factored form. And now that it's set equal to 0, we're going to split this equation. I'm going to split it so I have x plus 1 equals 0, and x minus 5 equals 0, and then I'm going to solve for the two x's. So, yeah. That's right. So, what this says now is our x-intercepts on our graph are negative 1 and positive 5. Okay? Now, they also want us to find the vertex of the equation. When I have the x-intercepts, I have to plug them into an equation that is r plus s divided by 2. That'll give us our axis of symmetry. Okay? So the axis of symmetry is equal to r plus x divided by 2. R is either negative 1 or 5, and s is either negative 1 or 5. Doesn't matter what order. So we have negative 1 plus 5 divided by 2. Let's push extend page.
So equals 4.
Okay. 4 divided by 2 equals 2. Okay? So, our axis of symmetry, or the x value of a vertex, is 2. So I want you to write the word vertex, and then the coordinate underneath. So vertex. Now put the brackets for the coordinate. Now, the x-coordinate is 2. It's the exact same as the axis of symmetry, but we need to find y. Okay? To find y, I need to take that number 2 and plug it in either to our factored form or our standard form. We're going to do the standard form.
No. Sorry.
2 squared times 2 minus 5. Yeah, he's doing it right. That's a y, not an x.
What? Oh, my bad.
It's okay. So y is equal to 2 squared minus 4 times 2 minus 5. 2 squared is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. So y is equal to 4 minus 8 minus 5 equals negative 9. So the y coordinate of the vertex is negative 9. Push pause in a sec. Okay, so go to the red marker. We're going to plot our two x-intercepts. Scroll up so we can see what they were.
-1.
Higher, that's the vertex. One of them, there it is, -1, and the other one's at 5. So we're going to scroll down, underline that. X equals -1. Like that. And X equals 5. Factored form? Yeah. Okay, so we plotted them. One of them is at +5, the other is at -1. Those are the two x-intercepts. Next thing we're going to do is the vertex. So if we go to the vertex, it's at 2 and -9. So we're going to plot that point on the graph.
No.
2 is the x, and then -9, so drop all the way down. Good. And like kindergarten, we're going to connect the dots. I want to see Anthony do this because this is not easy.
Good job.
Okay, pause.
Good job.
Okay, question 5A. Flip it. There's no 5. Turn. The other side. Other side. That's what I want. 5A says to put in vertex form. So they've given us 3 equations. The first one says y is equal to x squared plus 2 at x minus 24. Now we got to put this in vertex form. We're in standard form. So the first step to putting something in the vertex form is I find the coefficient in front of the x squared, and I divide the first 2 terms by them. Now the coefficient in front of x squared is just 1. So it's not going to make any difference when I take it out. So the next line is going to read equals, open bracket, x squared plus 2x, end bracket, minus 24. Okay? So what I've done is I've taken technically the coefficient out. Now, the next step what I'm going to do, and I want you to do this on the side, is put in blue. We need to take the b, which is our 2x, and plug it into the equation b divided by 2 squared. So we're going to take the number 2, the coefficient in front of the x, and we're going to plug it into b. So, yeah, 2 divided by 2 squared is 1 squared, which is 1. So I'm now going to add and subtract that number in the brackets. So the brackets will now read x squared plus 2x plus 1 minus 1. End bracket minus 24. Now I need to remove the minus 1. Luckily, because there's no number in front of the brackets, I don't have to multiply by anything. So I just bring the -1 to the outside. Okay? Now, don't go too fast. Now what I need to do is I need to find the factored form of the brackets. Now this is a perfect square trinomial. So in order to do this, get the magic marker. You need to find the square root of the first term. Put a square root over it. There you go. And square root of the last term. Okay? So square root of x squared is x. And the square root of the last term is 1. And I bring down the plus sign because it's the middle operation. It's the operation in front of the 2x. We bring down whatever operation's there, we bring it down into the bracket. Okay? Now we got to put a squared there at the end of the bracket. Outside the bracket. Okay. So your vertex form is x plus 1 squared minus 25. Respond.
No. Sir, look how smart.
Okay, so to start the first question, what we're going to do is I need to take the coefficient in front of the x squared outside of the brackets. So the next line is going to read equals, you get the marker,
Come on, man. Come on, man.
equals 2, open bracket, x squared, and then because I technically divided this term by 2, it's going to become a fraction. So it's going to be -1/2 x, -1/2 x, end bracket, minus 10. So remember, that coefficient that I took to the outside, I divided the first term by it, and I divided the second term by it. Now that I've done that, I need to take my formula on the outside. I need to have b divided by 2 squared, so I'm going to write that formula in blue on the right.
Where's the 1 half?
Because I divided 1 by 2. It could be 0.5 also.
Shouldn't there be 2 divided by 10 also?
No, I only do it by the first 2 terms.
The first 2 terms, x squared by 2 as well.
I did. That's why it's only x squared. So now, what we'll do is we'll convert the half into 0.5. So it'll be 0.5 divided by 2. So 0.5. 0.5.
Is that chicken? 0.5, not 1.5.
0.5 divided by 2 squared. 0.5 divided by 2, it's going to be, it's going to be the same as a quarter, okay? Or 0.25.
So, would be 0.50.
0.25 squared.
Wait, 0.25 squared? It's 2.5.
Push pause.
2.5.
Push pause.
Oh. It's such an air ball.
Okay, so after working all that out, we discovered that we had 0.0625. So that's the number we're going to add and subtract in the brackets. We have 2x squared minus a half x, and then plus 0.0625, and minus 0.0625, end bracket, minus 10. So you scroll down.
Come on.
Okay, now I need to move the negative 0.0625 to the outside of the equation, but in order to do that, I have to multiply by the number on the outside of the brackets, which is 2. So I need to multiply 0.0625 by 2. Who can help me out?
I don't know, some number. Not 6 digits. It's not 6. So it's going to be negative.
What is that?
1.25 and minus 10.
What's that?
You're on air.
I can't hear you, Jeremy. You talk very 5 minus 10. So now what I need to do is I need to find the square root of the first and the last term inside the bracket. So square root of the first and the last term. Okay. So it's going to say equals 2, bracket. Now we'll have an x is the square root of x squared. And we use the minus because it's the negative in front of the half x. And the square root of 0.0625 is 0.25. End bracket, squared. Then negative 1.25 minus 10 is negative 11.25. And that's our vertex form.
There you go.
Okay?
Boy. I do it.
You got to write the question first. So, 5c, y is equal to 6x squared plus 5x minus 4. Now, just like every other equation, I need to divide the first 2 terms by the coefficient in front of the x squared. So, our next line will read equals 6, bracket x squared, because I divided 6x squared by 6, plus 5 over 6x, okay? I had to divide that 5 by the 6. End bracket.
End bracket. Come on.
Minus 4. Okay? No, we're working fractions on this one. Now what I need to do in this one is I need to take my b, which is 5 over 6, and put it into my equation, b divided by 2 squared. So I'm going to put 5 over 6 divided by 2. Okay? Now what that's going to be is all that's going to do is I'm going to multiply 5 by 2 and keep the 6 on the bottom. Okay? If you remember your fraction rule, you have to flip everything upside down. And finally, I'm going to square that, so it'll become 100 over 36. So that's the number I'm going to add and subtract inside of the bracket. So my next line will read y is equal to 6x squared plus 5 over 6x plus 100 over 36 minus 100 over 36, end bracket, minus 4. Okay? Now, again, I need to move the minus 100 over 36 to the outside of the equation. When I do that, I have to multiply by 6. So, keep going here. We have plus 100 divided by 36. And then, on the outside, this will read subtract 600 over 36. Minus 4, okay? Now, we're going to eventually put things to common denominators, but before we do that, I'm going to factor my brackets. I need to find the square root of the first and the last term, and I'm going to put it into a single bracket on the next line. Y is equal to 6, and then the square root of x squared is x. And we take the plus sign from above. It's the plus in front of the 5 over 6. And, yes, 10 over 6. See how much easier it is when you use fractions? And bracket squared. So for x squared. 36 minus 4. Okay, now the only step I have to do last is I need to make the 4 have a common denominator as my 600 over 36. So I can actually reduce that fraction. If I divide the entire fraction by 6, I'm going to end up with 100 divided by 6. And then if I divide that by 2, I'm going to get 100 over 3, which will be easier, 50 over 3. So, minus 50 over 3, all I did was reduce that fraction to simplest form, minus 4. Now it'll be a little easier for me to turn the 4 into a common denominator. Right now it's over 1. And now I'm going to multiply that fraction by 3. So, that fraction in the next line is going to read, okay, rewrite the whole thing now underneath. We're going to change that number. Y equals 6x plus 10 over 6, end bracket squared, minus 50 over 3. And then because I multiplied, or I changed this common denominator to 3, it'll be minus 12 over 3. Okay? Now I can easily subtract the fractions. Negative 50 minus 12 is negative 62. So our next line reads y is equal to 6, bracket x plus 10 over 6, end bracket squared, minus 62 over 3. Okay? Push button.
Yeah, so decimal over here.
Question number 6 says a rectangular carpet and a square carpet have equal areas. Okay? Let's draw a little diagram. Do you go to the shapes? Right by the magic marker. We're going to put a square. Okay? And we're going to put a rectangle. We know that their areas are equal. So I've already put on whatever information I have. Okay, the square carpet has a side length of 4. So you know the square carpet side length, square. The length of the rectangular carpet is 2 meters less than 3 times its width. So we're going to put W for the width of the rectangular carpet. So W is the width. And we're going to put 2 meters less than 3 times. So we're going to put 3W minus 2 as the length. So, so this could be the length, 3W minus 2, because that side is longer. And this is the W. Okay, so this will be our length. Our length is equal to 3W minus 2. Now we can find the area of the rectangular carpet. Or sorry, the square carpet. The area of the square carpet is 16, is it centimeters or meters? Probably meters. Meters squared. Okay? Now we need to find the area of the rectangular carpet. So we know area is equal to, so we're going to put A is equal to our length times our width. Now we have an equation for the L. We're going to replace our length with 3W minus 2. Okay? Times W. I'm going to distribute that W, so it becomes 3W squared minus 2W. So I've made up an equation for the area of the carpet, but I also know the area of the rectangular carpet is the same as the area of the square. So I'm going to replace A, which is area, with the number 16, because we know the carpets have the same area. I'm then going to move 16 to the right side of the equation. So the left side will be 0 is equal to 3W squared minus 2W minus 16. Now I've set up a trinomial. I can factor it. Okay, so quickly looking at it, the way we normally factor is not going to work. So in order to find W, what do I need to use? There's a formula. I need to use this formula. X is equal to negative B plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4AC everything divided by 2A. Everything. The biggest mistake you guys would make when you're doing this is you'd only divide the bracket, or sorry, the square root by 2A, and you left the minus B for some reason. So, we're going to plug our numbers in. Yes, the X can be a W now since we're using it to solve for W. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's true. Okay, so negative. Now, our B is negative 2, so we replace B with negative 2, plus or minus the square root of negative 2 squared. Put the negative 2 in brackets. Put the negative 2 in brackets. Minus 4. A is 3, so times 3. And C is negative 16. Okay? All divided by 2 times 3. So we're going to start to equate. The next line is going to read W equals positive 2 plus or minus the root of negative 2 squared is 4. And then negative 4 times 3 is negative 12. And negative 12 times 16. Let me get a calculator.
156.
192.
Yeah.
So it's positive 192 divided by 6. Next line, 2 plus or minus the square root of 196 divided by 6. 2 plus or minus the square root of 196 is 14. Plus or minus 14 divided by 6. Now, this is where we split the equation. We're going to make two equations.
There is no divided by 6. Can be divided. Oh, yeah.
So one says 2 plus 14 divided by 6. The other says 2 minus 14 divided by 6. Divided by 6. Okay? So we're going to equate these two. 2 plus 14 is 16 divided by 6. 16 divided by 6. 2.6 repeated. Yeah, that's good. 2 minus 14 is negative 12 divided by 6. Negative 2. So, now what I have to do is I have to make sense of these two. So, my widths are, we're going to put W is equal to either 2.6 or -2. Let's go up and look. Get the magic marker. Can width, underline the width of the rectangle? Can the width of a carpet be -2? No. So let's go back down to our two answers. That makes no sense. We can't use -2, so we can cross that out. We know that the width of our carpet is 2.6. Okay? So the question asks us for the dimensions. So let's redraw our rectangle down here. Okay? We know the width is 2.6. The length, though, is 3 times 2.6, subtract 2. Because our formula used to say 3W minus 2. I still need to find out the length of this carpet. Okay? 3 times 2.6 repeated is almost 8. It is 7.9 repeated.
What does repeated mean?
And then minus 2, 5.9 repeated. So 2.6 repeated, whoops, times 5.9 repeated. It's 15.99999, so it works out to be almost perfectly it. Okay? So, our dimensions, the width is 6.2 and the length is 5.9 repeated. Focus. Okay, question 7 says, a rectangular garden measures 10 by 6 meters. So let's draw this rectangle. It is 6 by 10, this garden. And it also says that the owner would like to triple the area of the garden by increasing the sides by the same amount. Okay, so what is the area of this garden to start? 60 meters square is the area of the garden. He would like to make a new garden. So can you make a larger rectangle, please? And he's going to increase the length and the width by the same amount. We're going to call that amount X. So this new garden's width is 6 plus X, and the new length is 10 plus X. Okay? And we also know that the area of it is going to be 3 times the area of the old garden. So it's 3 times 60, 180 meters squared is the new area of this garden. So we're going to make an equation out of this. You can't make zeros with that. Okay? Can't erase it either. It'll fight away. So let's scroll down. Let's make an equation. We know that 180, or sorry, let's do area first. Area is equal to length times width. A equals LW. Okay? The area we're going to replace with 180. The length we're going to replace with bracket 10 plus X. And bracket. And W we replace with 6 plus X. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to FOIL this question to make it quadratic. Okay? Good. So, I'm going to multiply 10 times 6 first. So 180 is equal to 10 times 6 is 60.
You want me to underline all of it?
Sure. 10 times 6 is 60. Then we're going to do 10 times x, which is 10x. Then I'm going to do x times 6, which is 6x, and x times x is x squared. So the next line will be 60 plus 10x plus 6x plus x squared. So now I'm going to combine like terms. My like terms are 10x and 6x. So the next line will read 180, and I'm also going to rearrange this equation just so it's in a form that you're used to seeing. is equal to x squared, and move the x squared first,
The one that we were
plus 16x plus 60. And now I have to find x, so I'm going to have to use what formula?
Vertex Form.
Quadratic formula. So x is equal to negative b plus or minus the root of b squared minus 4ac.
I don't know when to use this formula.
When you need to factor something, so we're trying to solve for x, and you can't factor it the way we normally do. That's when you use this formula. Divided by 2a.
So, hey, Grandma, you tell us. You won't tell us. You're going to have those formulas. You're having a show. You don't have enough formulas yesterday.
So, negative b is 16, plus or minus. Oh, sorry. I made one error. I haven't moved over 180. In order to use quadratic formula, one side of the equation needs to be 0. So I have to move 180 to the other side of the equation. So it's going to be combined with the number 60. So 60 minus 180. Let's write that down. Because I brought it to the other side, it becomes negative. 0 equals x squared plus 16x minus 120. Minus. There we go. So sorry, we had the wrong C term there for a second. Minus 120. Okay, so now we'll do our quadratic formula. Let's replace our b with 16. So x is equal to negative 16 plus or minus.
16 squared? Is it 16 squared?
Yeah. 16 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 120 divided by 2 times 1. Which is just 2, but write it in. Okay, so next line reads x is equal to negative 16 plus or minus 200 square root of 256, and then negative 4 times 1 is negative 4. Negative 4 times negative 120 is positive 480. Divided by 2. Next line is going to read x is equal to negative 16 plus or minus the square root. Oh, shoot.
No, what's 480?
Square root of 736 divided by 2. Then we're going to have negative 16 plus or minus. Now, the square root of that number is 27.129. We're just going to round it to 27.13, okay? Divided by 2. We rounded it to 2 decimal places, which is rather accurate. Now I split this equation. So I have one that says negative 16 plus 27.13 divided by 2. And the other one says negative 16 minus 27.3 divided by 2. So negative 16 plus 27 is 1113, so 11.13 divided by 2. And negative 16 minus 27.13 is negative 43.13, negative 43.13 divided by 2. 11.13 divided by 2 is 5.565. And 43.13 divided by 2, negative 21.565. Now, okay, so let's think about this. We have our two values of x. X is equal to 5.565 and negative 21.65. Yes, let's go to our equation above for our new area. We scroll up. Is it possible I could have reduced the sides by 21, so negative 21 to get a larger area? No, so we know that the negative 21 doesn't make sense. That can't be a possible one, so we're going to scratch that out. So our new measurements are 5.565. That's what he's increasing by. So we have to actually find what the measurements of this are. So the length is 10 plus 5.565. Yeah, put it right there. which is going to be 15.565. That's one of the lengths.
Right.
You don't have to multiply it.
No, that's the width.
Yeah, so find the area. And the new length is 6 plus 5.565, which is 11.565. And we can multiply them just to make sure that we're close. Yeah. And when you multiply those, you would have got 180.009, which is roughly 180. So those are our two new measurements. Pause.